Hi, I'm John Stobart, and here we are in the beautiful Derbyshire Dales, right in the middle of England, the country where I spent my boyhood days. And today we're going to find Chatsworth House, a magnificent place not very far from here, and I'm going to paint that with a friend, David Curtis, a very good landscape painter. Also, we're going to try and find something else exciting to show you. So come along and let's have a look. David, I think we're about there.
I reckon that's as near as we're
Watch
going to get.
out for the
yes, I'm fairly used to
here.
these. But I think with that nice,
Look at that.
that nice twist
Look at
running
that.
through
That's
the whole.
incredible.
Yeah, that's nice.
This is it.
It's got a lead in. It's got structure, form. I reckon that'll do.
I love that. I love the bend in the river.
It's rather tonal at the moment. It's a little flat on, but I think, you know, with the right choice of palette.
David, how do you prep your canvases?
Well, I like to paint on canvas outside, but sometimes I quite like to paint on a prepared hardboard surface with a mix of texture paste and
There's no
gesso
canvas,
primer.
There's no canvas
No,
on
it's textured,
Oh, I like
and
that.
you get a nice roughish surface, and then I tend to just wash to kill the white, and
What
then
do you
I
do
feel
this with a?
it's just with French ultramarine and raw sienna usually.
What did you put the ground on with?
Oh, it's a sort of stippled brush, but it's not too much. And then after the coat of gesso and texture paste, there's an acrylic primer above it.
Very
But
good.
it works okay for me.
It's almost like painting on an old painting, which is always
That's
great.
it. Yes.
Isn't that a great
one that hasn't worked.
Right.
Yes.
That is a real
cadmium,
artist's
lemon,
palette, if you don't
maples.
mind me saying so.
Yeah, I'm a bit lazy, you see. I
yeah.
tend not to clean it off every time.
I see
Because it's
that.
in use every day, you see. So eventually, sometimes I burn it off and then it catches fire.
Yeah.
But that's just laziness.
That's-
But I like this
that's
array
terrific.
of
That's terrific.
raw sienna, Indian yellow, lemon yellow, Naples yellow, and just the two blues, French ultra and cerulean, viridian.
This is
Bit of burnt sienna.
almost a picture in itself. What's that
Yeah.
colour there?
That's cobalt violet. That's my favourite. That's my 95 favourite colour. That
Wow.
Colour of 95.
That's your closely held secret.
That's
is
my
it,
secret mix. That is.
David? See how you start.
I like to throw a few lines on just to get a feel of the composition.
Whenever I sit down and make a start, I look at something like that tree that is in the eye of the water there.
Yes.
And I think that'll look great. And I'm looking forward to painting it. And I find I've got to do it about an inch high.
That's right. That's
I want
right.
to do it 6 inches high.
That's right.
But when it comes down to the canvas, it's only an inch high.
It's a sort of visual greed, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
You want so much out of the
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and
Right.
the scale, the appreciation of scale falls by the wayside.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
empathise entirely with that.
Yeah.
But I do love this twist in the river.
Isn't it gorgeous?
It really is. But you know, I find that by putting a few skeleton lines down and nothing too determined too early, you can do some shifting around and adjustments, which your gut feeling then tells you if you've got things in the right, relatively the right positions. But we've got a nice angled baseline here, haven't we? The fall off of the near field, which is avoiding this sort of the composition being too far across, you know, in a sort of uninteresting sense. There really is something about painting plein air. I think it's the fact that your observations are so acute that there is nothing, you remember that the composition is so etched on your mind, isn't it? That the experience is so profound in many ways.
I think I'll bring that little cliff right in the distance onto the...
Which is this, the little escarpment?
Yeah, I like that.
It's a nice little kick in the...
I might move that
horizon.
half a mile or a quarter of a mile.
Ah, it's artist license, mate.
That's it. Oh, look at the way the trees disappear into the distance.
Beautiful recession, isn't it? I like to paint very dry, in a very sort of dry manner at this stage.
Yeah.
And I think beginners often have a problem where they get too much paint flying around too early and they lose the control.
I like it to get tacky when I'm really starting to put on finish paint. I want the underpaint to be getting tacky, and that's why I like to get the whole canvas covered if I can.
Yeah, I guess
in the first 10 minutes.
I think that's a good approach. I'm going to set the lightest lights now, John. I don't know how you
Is that what you do? You put the lightest light in and then the darkest dark?
I reckon because I've got a toned surface, I can...
Many people do that, and I think it's a wonderful idea.
I think I'm going to try and emanate out from these light passages. So
Wouldn't it be wonderful if a shaft of sun would come and illuminate that building for a while? I don't think it's going to happen, but
no.
We've just got to... And then, isn't it funny how everything seems to change when that happens? You like to stay on the lighter side of contrast, don't you?
Yes, I think it's probably one's eye, basic appreciation of time. I think I see things in a fairly high key.
Yeah.
It's probably painting an awful lot in England, and with this sort of flat light, you might call it.
Yeah.
That I find that you can resolve areas by placing it a little higher in key than well, for me, it allows me to hopefully keep in control of proceedings. This sort of stage I sort of call as spade work.
Spade work.
Spade work, knocking it all into shape.
Yeah.
And you can almost breathe a slight sigh of relief when then you can concentrate on the nuances.
Yeah.
We've always not got to lose sight of this uniformity factor in painting, have you? And
yes, you need a continuity throughout
continuity, and I think that's part of the reason for dotting around all over the piece, all over the painting, so that you don't polarize on one bit too long. And I think that's how you lose the sense of breadth and scale by being aware of
that
things happening all over the piece, really, and having the discipline to move, chop and change from one area to the other.
Yeah. Overlooking this magnificent valley, which is the seat of the Duke of Devonshire, the country estate and one of the greatest houses in England.
It's a languages paint, isn't it?
Yes.
And strangely, there's so much more life in a drawn line than there is in a photograph, isn't there? It's almost like building up a sort of mosaic of blocks in my mind. Block against block, tone against tone, and just trying to match them up.
I mean, I see the water standing out more in the sky. Why it should do that, I don't know. But
I think it's just because it's surrounded by dark masses. What I normally do is I put a little tiny hole between finger and thumb, John, and isolate the bit.
Right.
And then you can compare it by moving up and down. You see the contrast really quite.
Yeah. More important to get these bigger shapes going in the foreground.
I feel similarly. I really feel that the house is an integral part, but it doesn't want to be focused on too much.
Right.
Otherwise it'll jump forward and I think you'll lose the recession. So it's a balancing act.
Yes.
I think painting is like music. It should have crescendos and adagios and all the bits in between to make a complete story.
Very good way of putting it. As the sun has moved around here, it's starting to get on this other face, and so this part of the building, that part of the building, and that part of the building were defined before. Now they're less defined. And the thing is, if I altered it now to be like it was, I would spoil the effect of light on the building and light in the valley. I like the way the river does that, and the field does that.
Very insidious and
it's
very
not
difficult,
really
isn't it?
quite happening
It's
yet.
a sort of repeated motif, isn't it? It's lovely.
Yeah.
I always like to have that in paintings, little areas which repeat.
Repeating
properly.
shapes.
Yes.
Isn't that what painting is all about sometimes?
Isn't it just?
One shape will be repeated.
But sometimes if you can make them almost fairly hidden, that people have to search them out a bit.
Yeah.
A little bit of mystery.
Ah!
Painting outside is being faced with an ever-changing image, and it may be as time goes on during the execution of the painting, that image may improve in quality of light, and then you always have that dilemma of where you really ought to pitch it. You know, do I go for what's best now, but I've put so much brushwork on which is wet that I'm liable to lose it because the paint will then become uncontrollable. So it is a fight, and it's a question of reassessing and making snap decisions on the hoof, as it were. That's how I see it. Do you feel that, John?
Yes, I do.
Tell you what, John, you know, I feel terribly guilty when I think you've achieved that wonderful result with one brush, and here I am with about 6. How the hell do you do it?
I don't know. I feel that, yes, I suppose I have just used this, and it's about a ½ an inch brush, I think, bright. And I feel that if I go to different sizes, if I go to a smaller brush, I'll start to be intimidated by the detail.
Right.
That's the reason that I don't do it.
I think for me, I like to use very worn brushes. You see, I mean that brush.
A worn brush, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at that one, you see that would have been
look at that,
a nice square-ended brush, and they're all in various stages of sort of nearing the end of their life. But that's the way I like it. And
now, are you telling me then if I get a brush like that, I can get as good as you, David?
Well, I don't think that's significant. But I think that because they're very worn, you don't get that crispness of edge, and then you get a more looser feel to the resultant brushwork. And but you know, for me, I think it's just nice that we're all different, and we demand different responses from our equipment, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's just each to their own.
Yeah.
Perhaps next time I'll try it with one brush and you try it with 6.
Coming to conclude what I'm going to do today, by putting these trees in along the bottom here, I'm not going to do very much more to this. I like the sketchiness of it, and there's a lot more that I could do that I'm not going to do, because I want to keep the feeling of what I've got here, and and things have changed quite a bit, and I don't want to spoil it by just getting the top of that building in. I think it looks pretty good, though. I think I've got the basis of what I need, but I'm going to put these trees in a minute because I wanted the paint behind them to be tacky enough so that I wasn't going to push that paint out of the way while I was working on that. I don't think I want to get too much further here because I think I've got the essence of this scene. And this is what you have to do. You've got to stop at some point. I even like the way that the hills there are different colors in it. Now it's just a rather flat blue tone. Now I'm just going to put a little bit of dark over here. I love that all those monuments on top of the building and all the chimneys and everything make a big jumble up there, and I think that is part of the charm of it. Yes, I think I'm pretty happy with this now. What an incredible building it is. It's a very imposing building. And the thing is not to take it too far. In altering the color of the side of the building here, which I wanted to make this piece here is actually lighter than that piece, I've eliminated my drawing of the windows. Now I'll put those back in. I don't want to get into a smaller brush here, because as soon as I get the smaller brush out, it'll lose the look of the sketchy look that I like about it. That's better. You see that all of a sudden came to fruition. I'm going to make that just a little bit lighter on the side of the building there. There's a little more yellow in that part and a little more red in the other part. That's better.
I'm just thinking, you know, I'm just going to a finish as far as I feel I can go. Well, going to a finish without tightening up too much. And I mean, the real joy would be to totally finish this thing without any superimposition at any time, either away from the subject or on a subsequent visit. But I just find that now it's just matching up the odd little tonal shift. I just noticed that on the shadow side of the building there's one or two little cooler statements with the trees behind there, which might just catapult the form of the building forward a little, but obviously not too much forward, because I don't want it to become too insistent at what is effectively quite a fair distance. And then I would repeat that thinking, being aware of at all times of an obvious crisping up of the image, as opposed to what we saw 2 hours ago, that the image is much more defined now, and it would be a shame to lose the urgency of that earlier work by darkening everything up and getting it too heavy in tone, too loaded in tone. So I'm just being very careful now to spot a few sections in, but not to overstate.
I'm mixing red and green, blue and white and yellow. I'm going into all colours here because I see a slightly purple tinge to this tree, so I'm going to go into the red, and I think it's those subtleties of those tree colours right along this foreground that make it rather nice. The water's gone bright again, like it was when we were first here.
Isn't it tantalising?
It's not quite dry enough underneath for me to play with this as I'd like to. I'm drawing with the paint.
I think I might just put a little bit more warmth in the trees than actually are there, just to give
That's exactly what I was doing,
a
because
hint of...
you bring them forward. Anybody that's interested in art, they've only got to start off, and if they stay with it, they will develop their own, what I would call, signature.
Yes.
Of how they do it that's different from other people, and they have no idea how that is so important to them.
Yes, I think that's right, and I also think that, you know, if one does embark on a painting life,
yeah,
even in the amateur sense, it's still a joy of a lifetime.
Yes, you're right.
It's a great adventure.
This is it.
That's it for me, mate.
I think this is it for me.
Oh yes, absolutely magnificent.
Let's see what you've...
A lovely.
Oh, that's a
chunky
great.
affair.
That's a great moody.
Now we don't want this to become a mutual admiration society, but there you go, boy.
Congratulations. What a terrific place this is. Here we are in my hometown of Derby, and we're going to go into the museum and meet the curator, David Fraser, and see some of the Joseph Wright paintings that inspired me as a boy.
Derby Museum has the finest collection anywhere in the world of paintings by Joseph Wright of Derby, which is only natural really because he was a Derby-born artist like yourself, John.
That's right. Yes, I grew up here and lived here my boyhood days, and came in here many times, and this is where I got this wonderful chance of getting an inspiration. This painting here, for instance, this is a wonderful one. What is going on here, David?
This shows an 18th century demonstration of science with a philosopher in a red gown explaining to a mixed audience the movements of the planet around the sun using an early type of planetarium.
What a lovely composition with the silhouetted people here. He really got it together. I think his lighting was absolutely fantastic.
Yes, Wright was fascinated by light and shade. He's a real Enlightenment figure. He was the first real painter of the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, here's one that I find particularly attractive, or that attracted me when I was younger, and that is the mixture of the cool light and the warm light.
Yes, it's a scene on the River Derwent in Derbyshire with a man employed by the fox hunt team to block up the fox's earth the night before the hunt so they can't get back underground to safety in the morning.
Yeah. Well, this lovely painting with a silhouette here, what's happening there, David?
Well, this painting was painted shortly after the American Wars of Independence, when there was a great interest in the customs of the North American Indians, and it shows a widow grieving for her chieftain husband.